Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Mindsets Podcast. We're back. I spent 5 months traveling Southeast Asia. I took the podcast equipment with me, and today's podcast is going to be with someone I met while I was out there, which was really cool. It was a really good opportunity to do, and I'm really glad that you guys are able to listen to that now. So you'll have seen from the title of this that it's a bit about fighting. The guy that I met is a Muay Thai fighter. He's based out in Bali. His name's Yul. We'll get into more of the proper introductions. But first and foremost, I want to thank you guys for your support on some of the gym review videos I was doing as I traveled Southeast Asia, and just generally staying in contact with the page. Without further ado, let's get into it, and I'll let me introduce myself and Yul again when we're in Bali. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome back to the Mindsets Podcast. This is another episode. Today I'm in Bali, which I might have already mentioned in the prelude to this, but I'm joined by Yul, who I met a few years ago. And before I try and introduce you, do you want to do a better introduction of yourself?
Yeah. Try that again. So my name's Yul, from England, 22. Currently living in Bali and fighting and coaching in Muay Thai. And I got my foot in a few other doors as well, but I'm not going to mention them.
Okay.
Too tough on here.
Okay, that's fine. No problem. So before we kind of move into learning a bit about Muay Thai from you, because I personally have a very little knowledge. I mentioned to you before this, but I did freestyle karate when I was younger to a very low level, and I did it as like a 6-month thing when your parents throw you in there for a holiday club.
Yep.
So that's pretty much my knowledge. Other people might know more. But do you want to give us a bit of a background of yourself before we get into Muay Thai today?
Yeah, so started off, well, I suppose with sports, I started off with rugby when I was a lot younger. Then transitioned to karate for 3-4 years. Didn't stick at that. Found it quite boring after a while. Then transitioned to Krav Maga, which, as I said, I've realised is now bullshit. After doing Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Then from there, I didn't do anything. I was just gymming for a while.
Okay.
Transitioned to American football, and then from American football, I've transitioned to Muay Thai.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems like quite smooth transitions.
Yeah.
But as along the way, there were little things that drove that. So you've mentioned before to me that you first got into sport because, like me, as a child, you had a little bit of puppy fat.
Yep.
And then
my brother would say whale blubber.
Yeah. I had that one in my family as well. And then you sort of had an interest in the forces, which then got you through. But your transition from doing American football into more sort of martial arts happened sort of over COVID time. Is that sort of right?
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty often when you talk to people about what happened over COVID, there's a lot of changes in people's lives over that year or 2 years because people were locked in.
Yep.
Social life didn't really exist. You were at uni, right?
I was, yeah. I just started at BCU in Birmingham.
Right. So pretty awful time to go to uni.
So time to go to uni.
So I can see kind of why, as well as doing American football there, you were looking at other things to sort of do with your time. Because one of the only things you could do is if you were going out, you had to be going somewhere to do something.
Yes.
So you said there's a gym or something in Birmingham that you discovered?
Yeah, so there was a gym called Team Renegade, which is an MMA gym. As I said, I'd say, in my opinion, the leading gym in the UK at the moment for MMA. They got the Leon Edwards, for those who don't know, that's a UFC welterweight champion.
Okay.
I believe, yep. Got Ben Wallace, who's a glory kickboxer. They've got other huge names there now. Who else have they got? Arnold Allen, again UFC. Jai Herbert. Lot of big UK names and a lot of guys who are in the UFC from the UK, which is always nice to hear.
Yeah. So you've then discovered that. How do you go from Birmingham and being a uni student to now being a fully fledged adult, living completely abroad and still doing a form of martial art?
So, I mean, after I played my last season of American football in Birmingham, with you, and get the name Tamworth
Phoenix.
Yep, yeah, Tamworth. Wasn't the greatest season. I think I'd already fallen out of love with American football at that point. So, after that, I kind of was finding England a little bit. Yeah, it wasn't for me. Uni wasn't for me. Just as it is for a lot of people, but I was lucky enough to have family over here.
Right.
So my mum was like, "Why don't you go see your brother for a little while, help out with him? He's just had a baby and he's a wife, so they needed a bit of help. So like, why don't you go out there for a few months and help?" And end up coming out here, and rest is history. End up staying. I was supposed to come up for 3 months, and I've been here for a year and a half.
Yeah. Okay. So you've come out here. You discovered this place, which is just Muay Thai.
Mm-hmm.
And alarm bells ringing when I heard you were doing Muay Thai in Bali. It's not Muay Bali or Muay Indonesia. It's Muay Thai.
Yeah.
So you haven't gone across to Thailand, or you got any desires to go across to Thailand to maybe?
I have not. I have got desires to go across to Thailand. I'm going on holiday in there in 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
So it's a holiday from a holiday is what it feels like at the moment. So I'm going over there in 2 weeks, but I'd like to. I'd like to go over there. The style in Thailand's hugely different to Bali. So I'd say Bali, Indonesia, the style here definitely feels more K1, which is kickboxing.
Right.
So, for those that don't know, Muay Thai, the main difference between Muay Thai is the fact that you can clinch, you can elbow, you can catch and sweep, so you can take opponents down to the ground. Not like wrestling, but you can't take them down by the legs, but you can sweep them with your feet. In kickboxing, you're not allowed to do that. In kickboxing, it's basically boxing and just kicks. When you clinch together, it's like boxing where if you're holding each other, that's it. Okay. You can maybe throw one knee and then you get split up. So yeah, the style here is definitely a lot different. So if I was to go over to Thailand, it would be a bit of a shock, I reckon.
A learning
curve for sure.
Yeah. So at the minute, now that you're out here, are you looking more at coaching, learning these different styles, maybe going into more competing? I don't know what you've been doing since you've been out here, really.
A bit of everything. Like initially, I was just here. I just wanted to train, and then 3 months. Again, I get thrown into things quite quick. So 3 months into training, these guys were like, "Oh, do you want to fight?"
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, yeah, why not?" Turned out to be a 4-man tournament. Mm-hmm. So my first experience of, my first proper experience of it was a kickboxing fight. So. Was it kickboxing or Muay Thai? No, it was kickboxing. My first experience of a kickboxing fight, and I had 3 fights in one day.
Wow.
So, we were
pretty intense. Throwing in at deep end.
We were wearing shin guards.
Yeah.
Wearing headgear, although it's just pointless. This headgear is like so thin. Shin guards are basically socks just to stop your shins from cutting, so you still feel bone to bone. And again, it's like every other. It's like, only a tester for people, 80%. Shit, wasn't 80%.
Yeah.
I ended up getting paired with one guy at the end. His name's Aaron Jones. Shout out to him. He's a good fighter. He'd been doing it for 9 years. I've been doing it for 3 months. He fucked me up.
I mean, I rate that. I rate him not taking it easy. Like,
got
to teach you your lessons.
Although I'm sure if you ask him, he'll probably say he took it easy on me.
Yeah, of course he would. Interestingly, actually, as well, with whole coming out of here and then you got thrown into the deep end pretty quickly with that. Very, very different thing. When I was a bit younger, before I went to uni, I relocated myself to the Alps. I became a ski bum for a while.
Okay.
One of the things I find really interesting about your move is when I went with a load of English people because we were all going out there to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the same boat as everyone around me, and we all kind of felt comfortable in that way because of that. You said you came out here because, your brother's out here.
Yeah.
And he's got a family out here. But socially, you've obviously left a lot of friends behind and still a lot of family.
Yeah.
How did you find that move? Was it quite sort of not lonely, but kind of difficult in any way?
Initially it was a bit of a shock. Initially it was a bit of a shock, but I kind of got here. I was quite busy with helping out with my nephew. But I mean, I'm pretty good at staying in contact with some of the guys back home, some of my old friends. So, luckily FaceTime and WhatsApp and whatnot. But yeah, initially it felt a bit lonely, and then I don't know whether you experienced this, but after a while with traveling, you kind of start to I love my own company now.
Yeah, I get that.
I really like. I'm a bit.
Kind of get used to.
Yeah,
I'm a
bit of a loner at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm not at the gym, I'm by myself or I'm with my girl. But that's it.
Kind of it. Yeah. Do you find that the gym, like if you didn't have the gym though, that you'd probably try and replace that with something else because that's a big portion of your time, or do you see the gym as a way to invest everything positively and kind of keep yourself focused and going, keep away from thinking, oh, I want my boys to come out, or I want to go back home, all of that?
Yeah, I would say if I didn't have gym, I don't know what I'd be doing.
Yeah.
I don't know what I've been. Fitness has been a huge thing for me since 12.
Yeah.
Like even after school, everyone would go out. I'd go gym. I'd go do some training or something like that. So I have no idea what I do about gym.
So it obviously big reliance is kind of similar to me. Unfortunately, traveling around, backpacking is really hard to stick to a routine just because obviously I don't know where's good to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to get my nutrition right. As a result, then if I'm in a new place every 3 days, I've got to try and find a gym.
Yeah.
They cost different amounts. It's a bit difficult. As I've been going around Asia on like a TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that, I've been posting gyms that I've been going to. So if anyone else is in the same boat, hopefully they can find a gym that's somewhat decent. I found some shockers as well, which is hilarious. But it's been quite interesting trying to keep up with it. One thing that I think is huge though is I do miss the routine of sort of fitness in a way. Obviously I've completely lost that, and I enjoy not having the routine of work right now. But what is your routine now that you're grounded in a situation, sort of weekly, on a normal week? Just at the sort of the moment.
Routine is, well, when it comes to fitness? Yeah,
just sort of how you approach sort of being here, whether you're coaching, training yourself, or that sort of thing. How are you approaching that on a weekly basis to continue your sort of improvement? Because like you said, you've got this thing for fitness.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's 5-6 days a week at the gym. It's a pretty stable one. Morning, Monday to Friday, here helping out. Usually I train after that, or I try to train. Depends how I'm feeling. And then, as at the moment, I suppose it's definitely training twice a day.
Training twice a day. Wow. That's
twice a day, maybe Monday to Friday, if we can. It depends because it depends on how the guys and their situations are at the moment. Like if they're working, if they've got private clients. Yeah. If I've got other family things going on. But yeah, when no one's prepping for a fight, it's like maybe once a day.
Okay.
For an hour and a half. But when we're prepping for a fight, then twice a day. Yeah.
Is that based? So one thing that I haven't got a full grasp on is you obviously see huge boxing matches. They'll be watching film of the other fighter. With martial arts sports, is that as prevalent? Is it something you do? You watch tape on the person that you're going to be fighting?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as when you get to professional level, yeah, I'm not at professional level. But definitely, it definitely gives you the edge. If you can analyze your opponent, it's the same as American football. Like you figure out, if they take a step to the right, it means that they want to do this, or if they do, if there's certain hand signals, something like that.
I definitely think as like an athlete, it's you can obviously get your body right, but one of the biggest sort of advantages you can get mentally is kind of at least having an idea of what the other person's going to do. So it's when you'd mentioned that you were doing tournaments with 3 or 4 people in a day, I don't know how normal that is, but it's obviously very difficult to prepare for 3 or 4 people in one day by watching tape or everything.
I mean, with that there was no watching tape. As you just pull up and you kind of
adjust on the fly.
Adjust,
yeah.
But I mean that's the thing. That's the thing with martial arts and fighting is like you have to be able to adjust so quickly.
Yeah. So quickly,
especially Muay Thai. 3 rounds, 3 minutes in one championship. And obviously they've, professional, so they've got a lot of tape on each other. But if someone pulls out something that you haven't seen, you have to be able to read it and adjust so quickly. These guys' minds are, they're so sharp. Like I thought American football was sharp, but it's a different speed with this.
Something I've actually been, I did a little bit of reading this morning, so I didn't look completely clueless, or I didn't have to pretend I knew you were saying a lot of the time. But with martial arts, especially out in Asia, and specifically Muay Thai that I was looking up,
the scoring system is very different to other things like boxing in the way of the whole fight is looked at. Is that right?
Yeah.
So how do you win a Muay Thai fight? What constitutes a win over your opponent, rather than just getting more hits in a certain area?
Muay Thai, like traditional Muay Thai, you go into Thailand, and you having the traditional fights over there. You get points for strikes,
right?
Sweeps. So I think I'm not hugely knowledgeable on the point system because I'm a bit of an idiot, and with my fights, I've never gone for points. I've just gone for the knockout.
Well, yeah,
it's backfired on me every time. So I'll say I haven't learned my lesson. But in Thailand, you get points for aggression. So if you're backing up too much, you get deducted points after a while. Okay. You get points for obviously the strikes and the sweeps and the elbows. You get points for technique. So if you're technically very good and your form looks good, you can get points for that. What else can you get points for? That's the main ones, I think, at the moment. That's the main ones. But traditional Muay Thai, it also depends on rounds as well.
Right.
Round 1 in traditional Muay Thai is usually a warm-up round. So it doesn't really get...
Is that because you're trying to figure each other out a little bit? Right. Okay.
So if you watch like old school Muay Thai, you'll see they're just finding their rhythm, figuring out their opponent's rhythm. Maybe one shot here, just to see what their reaction is. Round 2, it starts to warm up. Round 4 is really where it's at in the old school Muay Thai. Round 4 is if you win that round, you want to make sure you win that round.
Right. Okay.
Even if you've won the others, you still want to make sure you win that round because that's a real big score. So yeah, traditional Muay Thai, it depends on rounds as well. Nowadays, if you watch like one championship, they're trying to light each other up from round 1.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of the time.
Straight out of the gate.
Yeah, trying to.
Do you think that's an influence from other martial arts as well?
I think so. I think it's definitely an influence from like Western culture as well.
Yeah.
The style of Western Muay Thai and the style of Thai Muay Thai. Every Muay Thai style from different parts of the world is different. Mm-hmm. You've got like you have the Dutch guys who are very heavy on leg kicks.
Right.
But they'll box. They'll use their hands a lot, but they'll throw a lot of leg kicks. The UK guys like to box a lot of the time. They like their hands. Thais good with their kicks.
Yeah. In terms of training for that, then obviously you guys train the way that you guys fight here in Indonesia. Mm-hmm. So a training session, little heads up as well for anyone listening or watching to this. After this, you're always going to train me, and it's going to be hilariously embarrassing. So if you're interested in kind of what moves look like or anything like that, or maybe what they could look like, then that will be posted at some point as well. But before I obviously don't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. How do you guys train for sport? Because one thing that I'm also trying to spread through this podcast is we've done an NFL player, we've done a cyclist, neither of which trained remotely in a similar way. Yeah. And I imagine that fighters don't really train like an NFL D lineman or Paralympic cyclist.
No, they don't. But do you know what's interesting is this is one thing I think I don't know, I have a method to my madness, but one thing that I think is massively I think if you took an NFL player and put them into any sport, they'd flip and dominate. They are so strong, their agility is insane, their speed, their reaction time. Yeah. I think if you took an NFL player and you put them into a martial art and they, apart from all the huge muscle, if they kind of whittled that down a little bit, focus on their flexibility, mobility, I think they'd dominate. So I've taken some of the training that we've done in American football and I've transferred it to this.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I can say, I haven't seen you since you moved out here. You look bigger, but I don't know how to describe it. Your physique is definitely more of a fighter.
Yeah, I mean, I've lost weight since I've been out here. I've lost, I think 8 kilos. Like, my natural body weight back home was 88 and now it's 80. Wow. It's still heavy for me. I'm, 5'7".
Moving a lot.
Yeah. A lot quicker. My mobility, I thought a lot of mobility. That's a lot of the main focus.
I think that's the thing that you're going to be shocked at today. Is my mobility is shocking.
I'm sure it's not as bad as some people I've seen, man.
We'll see. We'll see. But interestingly, I think mobility is such an overlooked thing as well.
100%.
So Do you find that a lot of your sessions rely on the mobility in terms of like stretching, or are you training the mobility?
It really depends on what's coming up. So, yeah, I train mobility twice a week. I used to completely neglect it, and I think a lot of people do. And just even if you're not doing any sports, I think it's like the benefits from it are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like you have the, you know, not even necessarily little pains that you realize that you had, but you start training it and you get up in the morning and you feel a bit looser. You just feel better. Just, you know, instead of just doing weights 24/7 and you just feel all stiff and whatnot.
You say doing weights 24/7 as well with fighting. How much of the time are you spent sort of practicing combos or like hitting a bag in comparison to lifting weights and
yeah, a lot more.
A lot more.
A lot more. So I mean, weights max three times a week.
Okay.
Maybe twice. I think two full body sessions, and then the two mobility sessions. It kind of mixes between strength and mobility, but it's not like, yeah, it's strengthening your muscles in a lengthened position. So there's someone that I'm training with at the moment. They're called forget the name. His name's PJ. Let me just get his account on here and I will tell you. Flexibility Maestro. Okay. Yeah, Flexibility Maestro on Instagram. It's helped me so much.
Yeah.
So much. Like it's been a lot of very basic movements, like just a lunge, but it'll be a lunge in like as lengthened the position you can go.
Okay.
So you're just working the small muscles, or you're just working the muscle in the like the longest form that it can take.
Yeah.
Because what you'll find with a lot of people is that it's not that their flexibility is horrible, it's that they're not strong enough to have their muscles in a lengthened position.
Right.
Because they've never had to.
Yeah.
You know, so if you have people who were to do a head kick, and you have to try and get your leg all the way up, it's not that they can't do that in the splits. It's just that they're not strong enough to get there, or be able to support the muscle as it goes up.
I think that's something that I'm going to find quite interesting in our little session later. Is having travelled around Asia and, like I said, not having a routine that's structured or anything like that. Before, like last year, I was doing this thing and I was in a really good routine of stretching every day, going to the gym most days of the week, and strengthening, in the lengthened position. I was doing like squats, and instead of trying to continue upping my squat, I was aware that I wasn't getting as low as I probably should do, and I wanted to be past the point of it being questionable.
Yeah.
So I literally went back to the beginning and started again from baby weight in the lengthened position and getting my body comfortable, just sat at the bottom of the squat.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you come out here because, one, I've fallen out of that routine, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to reach those positions, but there's the thing called the Asian sit, right? Which is where you'll just see people on the side of the road sat on their ankles, and it's just a thing you don't see at home. And
it's
so
insane.
Me attempting to sort of do that when I'm trying to kill time waiting for a train or a bus or something, it's getting harder because I'm not stretching and I'm not forcing my body into those positions all the time. So I am interested to see when we're doing some of these things and what you consider like fighters' mobility, how much I have dropped off in my own opinion and how different that is from the guys you normally work with.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be something that could potentially just, embarrass myself. But on mobility, you said that that's something that you've started to include a lot more, and you find really important. Is there anything else that you've sort of physically have learned and you think is probably a lesson you wish you had learned earlier in sport or in Muay Thai?
Physically.
Just as sort of little things that you wish you never did. Like a lot of people I know that go to the gym now, they used to do push-pull legs. They used to go 3 times a week, and then they've realised that actually for them that probably isn't the most efficient thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything sort of in the way that you used to train or the way you used to approach fitness that you're glad you don't do anymore?
Lifting the crazy heavy weights.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's not necessary unless I needed it for American football.
Okay.
It wasn't absolutely not necessary.
So just chasing weight is...
Chasing weight. Again, sport specific for American football, it was good. Going up against, O linemen, D linemen, flipping huge running backs and whatnot. It's good to be able to push a lot of weight, but apart from that, it just had no benefit. I just felt stiff. I'm sure I feel like yeah, just hitting big weight. That's the main one.
Is it partly to do with? So I've heard this from, I can't remember. It was a very famous bodybuilder that said that you had to master the weight, and I feel like in martial arts there's a lot of mastering the technique, and a lot of the time you'll see people that are trying to progress through something massively, whatever it is, whatever kind of training, without focusing on the minor details. And in actual fact, if you spend time focusing on the minor details, you get much better output.
Yeah, so much better.
And so I wonder if it's the kind of similar thinking from martial arts training technique into even when it comes to weightlifting, is just becoming a master and being in control of what you're doing all the time, that then gets overlooked. But interestingly as well, have you found that as you've transitioned through different sports and different ways of training, do you feel that Muay Thai is the one that sits with you mentally the best in the way that you train and the way you take care of your body?
Oh yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
Muay Thai is fucking painful.
This is what I was going to move into: the pain versus the reward.
It's painful, and you kind of got to accept that. And if you don't accept that, then you're in the wrong. Definitely the wrong sport.
Be honest, is there a little sick part of you that kind of enjoys the pain sometimes?
After.
Yeah.
Like actually no. After. Not so. It's a tough one. That's it. That is a tough one. I would say after, it feels good that you've been able to go through, and you've proved to yourself that you can endure all of that.
Yeah.
And you can, it wasn't as bad as you always think it is.
Yeah.
Like right, before,
when the adrenaline's still going.
even before sparring, sometimes when we have hard spars here, I've got adrenaline going, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be painful. But then after, it's never as bad as you really think it is. Yeah. And after a week, things start to ease out a lot more. For sure, yeah.
But are there those days where you wake up and you feel like you've been hit by a car and you're just like, why?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
How do you cope with that out here? Because obviously you're kind of, I'm assuming you're kind of your own boss in a sense with your training.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever, with rest, if you've had like a pretty brutal sparring session and the next day you'll feel like, I'm supposed to go to the gym, I'm supposed to do some mobility, do you ever just go, I need to stick to that? Or do you just say, do you know what, today it's probably best if I don't?
Nah, if it's a weekday, I try to stick to it. I think it's being able to work around injuries if you do get them, or I think you've got to start to differentiate what if something is an injury or if it just hurts.
Right.
With this, like if it just hurts, then you kind of have to get on with it. If it's an injury, then you try to work around it. So I don't know, if I've messed up my leg and I can't move it, then what can I do with my hands?
Yeah.
And if, at the end of all of that, it's like, if I can't do that, what is something I can do that I just keep moving a little bit so I don't stiffen up? And I had the same mentality in American football, which is, if you can't do any of that, what can I do with IQ?
Yeah.
Just something to keep doing, to keep training.
Keep progressing, even if physically you can't, then there's something else you can do. I like that. And do you find, generally speaking, there's like a balance between what you're putting in physically and what you're putting in mentally? Sometimes social things that happen outside, I often find I rely on sports and exercise massively to sort of not as deep as therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a lot of the time, I'll let a lot of the energy or stresses that I have out into the sport. But at the same time, sometimes things happen in the sport that come out and they affect me socially. Do you find that you've got a pretty even balance here? Because I don't go around punching things or like kicking things as hard as I can. I can imagine that the output from that at times can be like unbelievably good when you're feeling a bit stressed and stuff about rest of life. But at the same time, you said that you've been beating the shit out of a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work on the flip side? Because is it a bit of an ego thing as well? It can knock your ego a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it can definitely knock your ego. You could be putting in all the work and then, you just have a bad day, or things just aren't going to plan, or you're overthinking too much. And then you feel like everything that you've done just goes to shit.
Right.
Yeah. But you have to kind of just take a step back and learn that it's just one day. It might not be like
another week coming up, another guy in front of you.
That can be hard to do. That can be really hard to do. And especially, I don't know. Especially when it's like, I wouldn't say it's ego, but if you get, knocked out, or if someone hits a good shot and people are watching, it is at the end of the day, like you feel like, oh, that's, it's not embarrassing. I wouldn't say it's embarrassing, but it definitely feels like, oh, I put in all this hard work and I just got proved.
Right.
got proven, that it wasn't as hard as I.
Do you find there's a big difference in how you fight then, if there are people watching, and if it's just you two?
Yeah. I mean, definitely having eyes on you is there's added pressure for sure. And I assume I don't know. I'm not experienced enough to say whether it fades over time or if it doesn't. I'd like to think it does, but
Yeah.
Maybe people just. I see a lot of people who get good at. You can see a lot of people who get good at using the crowd as extra.
Okay.
Extra kind of added pressure, but in a good way.
Right. Because I again, in some reading, one thing that I saw a couple of videos of people doing Muay Thai fighting, which were terrifying for one, but in like some of the rounds they'd be putting like their hand up celebrating, which I've seen in boxing before.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of showboating, stuff like that, but I've heard it's actually like quite an important thing for like fighters recognize when one thinks one's winning and that sort of thing in the sport. And is that part of the controlling the crowd a little bit as well, do you think, or is that just sort of a secret conversation that's going on?
So what do you mean, as in using that as a kind of a mental battle?
Yeah, it's like a tool in the fight.
I think 100% that is. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than, feeling like you've given your all, and then someone kind of just either smiles at you or, like you can see they're very confident, and you're not in that position.
Yeah.
And I haven't experienced it with the crowd, whether people use the crowd against others, but I feel like that'd be a great weapon.
Yeah.
Like if you've got the whole crowd booing for you and you're not in a good mental state, I can't imagine that's easy.
Yeah.
At all.
Do you even have like an idea of how you'd approach? I mean, it's kind of a situation where your back is quite literally up against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes. Have you had many fights where you've been in that position, and sort of what's your thought process to sort of deal with that? Because I can imagine the first time it's like, oh my god, what do I do? But if you've said that you've had a few fights that maybe haven't gone your way, are you starting to develop a mental process of like, okay?
So I haven't, like when I say I've had 5 fights, right? So only one of them has had like a huge crowd. When I say huge crowd, I'd say maybe like 100, 200 people.
That's
which is still quite, which is still quite a lot. And yeah, again, that was one that kind of, I went in with this very relaxed mindset, and when things didn't start to go the way, and you don't even hear the crowd going, ooh.
Yeah.
Like I remember feeling the pain after, but I had an exchange, and then I don't know, he caught me with a switch kick, and I heard the slap, but it didn't hurt. But then that was the only time I've heard the crowd go, ooh. I was like, really? Is it that bad?
Oh,
and
okay.
that was like, that affected me. I'm like, well, if everyone else is seeing it but I haven't, something's not right here.
Okay.
Kind of just gone back downhill.
Then you're kind of like overthinking.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Overthinking massively, and it's like, oh shit, I don't want to get hit with that again. And then, but the minute you start going with that, it's like, oh, I don't want to get hit with that again. You get a lot of these people who they'll what's it called? Capitalize on that. So they'll start to they'll fake, and then you start to, because you're already aware of that, you start to flinch, and then it opens up loads of other things. So then you start to just spiral.
So interestingly, that seems like it's just going to be a huge experience thing. Do you find that the more successful or harder to fight people are a few years older than you because they've got more of that under their belt, or is it just a thing that it's a difficult question that I'm trying to work out here? But like, I can imagine with a lot more experience that becomes far less of an issue.
Yeah,
because you've been in so many more fights.
Oh yeah.
So is there, in terms of like other sports, prime age is often your athletic prime, which is like 19 to 21.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the same in
martial arts
that you've discovered?
Nah, I think obviously there's a certain age you get to where age starts to affect you, but definitely with martial arts, it's definitely I feel like there's few cases, but a lot of the time these days it seems to be like the the little bit older you are, the better. Okay. Like if you're in between 25, 35, I think that's a good age.
Okay.
You've had a lot of fights, you've had a lot of experience, you're more confident in yourself, you know who you are.
Yeah.
As you're younger, you're kind of just filled up on testosterone, you just want to,
of course,
brawl, fight it out. But like I'm only saying that from the point of view of like, if you watch UFC now, or if you watch a lot of these Muay Thai fights, a lot of the guys there they're like 32, 33, and they're 33 years old and they're champions.
Yeah.
But they've only just become champions like in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were 19 years old and...
Yeah, they've had to... It's not only, I guess, working on that craft, because I guess when they were 3 years younger, they might have been technically as good, but it's just waiting on how to approach the fight right and everything like that, which I guess is true. You see fighters change their coaching all the time, like who's doing their prep, everything like that.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of part of it as well, as finding that right balance between literally everything in order for that prep to go the way it needs to go, and then kind of go into that fight with that confidence.
It definitely seems to be that way in the West. I mean, as like, you've been to Thailand, I don't know if you've been to any of the gyms there, but the kids there are training from like 7 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think I was one of those kids for that 6 months, but in hindsight, I mean, it wasn't like a real, proper gym. So I've seen like parents taking their kids off to do these different like camps and stuff like that, and I see them and I'm starting to think like there probably are like 10, 12-year-olds that could genuinely like dominate me in a fight, because they've been doing it since they were 7 and they've got 5 years on me.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like I do like to think in my head, I'm like, it's a 12-year-old. I genuinely think there's probably a good number of 12-year-olds in this world that are experienced enough with their training to at least make me question who I am.
That's a tough one.
Because do you find that you get really young kids in here?
We don't.
Really?
Not here. Not so much. This gym is more. We kind of get a lot of tourists.
Right.
So we got like our core group, but we got a very big influx of tourists who come here for like 2 weeks, just want to experience the...
Do you find they're first timers?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of them are first timers. But yeah, the kids, not so much. I think in Indonesia, you get a lot of kids in Indonesia do like taekwondo, karate. Like, as I said, I think it's not bad to start with. It's good for mobility and whatnot, but as a taekwondo for like an actual one-on-one exchange, I don't think it's that good.
Okay, because one thing I was gonna ask is, say these tourists are coming out, and I assume some of them, I'd like to think that a lot of them are catching the bug for it. When they go home, are they finding other places to continue training Muay Thai? And could you see yourself ever kind of doing what you're doing now, but back in the UK, or
as in what? As in training over there?
As in, yeah, could you ever see yourself now going back to the UK and continuing training Muay Thai, or even just being back in the UK now?
I don't see myself going back there anytime soon, but if I went back, I'd 100% continue.
Continue? Find a gym, start your own thing?
I'm not that experienced yet. I don't know, give it like 20 years, maybe, 30 years. Oh. But I'd 100% go find a gym out there.
Yeah?
I'd 100%, yeah.
And try and stick to the sort of routine you're doing now?
Yeah, if I can.
Yeah.
If I can.
You don't think that you'd... I think the thing that I always find interesting is different sports in different countries. So from the UK and from a lot of Western countries, it's very normal for people to be going to the gym and that kind of be their only sport. You don't think there's any danger you just slip into, maybe I'll just go to Pure Gym down the road for like a quick session, and then you're spending less time on Muay Thai? Or do you think now that you're so, like, this is your sport?
Nah, this is 100% the sport. Like,
I love that.
Even if I went back, I've got a few weights in my garage. I'd find some way to get a punching bag or something like that, or I'd just find a gym near me.
That's really cool.
I can't. Yeah, it's a weird one. I think you hear a lot of people, they'll go out to Thailand and they just get like weirdly addicted to it, even if it's just as a hobby. But they just the whole, it becomes kind of a lifestyle. Yeah. Yeah, it 100% becomes kind of a lifestyle. And if you're doing it as a hobby, I don't see any negative effects of it. Like you see these guys in Thailand who are like 50 years old and their mobility is insane. Yeah. Because they've been doing martial arts.
And from what I've seen, like, I think one of the things that people forget is you don't need to go to a pure gym or a conventional gym for you to be in shape. Like
100%.
Training for these sports properly, it's surprising. I mean, even at the extremes, like, you'll see these celebrities go on to like Strictly Come Dancing and they get in shape so quick, and it's like the actual sport will take care of it.
Yeah, a lot of the time.
You don't need to think like, oh, how am I going to fit this in with, how am I going to fit a new sport or a new hobby in with going to the gym or anything like that, or going on my run 5 times a week. Quite often, you can reduce the amount you do that thing and increase the amount you do that, and it will be a perfect harmony.
But also the crazy thing is, and I'm gonna hate on people at the moment. Is I think the method of training these days is so rubbish. There's so much rubbish on the internet that I see. People overcomplicate stuff so much. If you went to a gym and all they had was a barbell, a bench, a squat rack, and that's all you needed. If they had a few medicine balls, it'd be great.
You can make it work.
Something heavy to pick up, something heavy to like squat and bench press. You're doing better. I think it's so much more beneficial than going and doing like bicep curls and calf raises and whatnot. I mean, obviously they have their benefits, in their own path, but just as general fitness, you can do so much with so little.
Have you got any advice then for people that are either getting into, well, this is quite broad. I was going to say getting into martial arts primarily, but fitness, because you've gone into multiple different sports and ways of training for them.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got any advice for people that are listening to this, maybe thinking, maybe I want to give Krav Maga, I'm not joking, not Krav Maga, but like Muay Thai,
give it a go, find out.
or like other martial arts. Have you got any advice for people that are in the UK or even listening from anywhere about kind of how to approach it?
Okay, with martial arts, I think number one is focus on technique. Don't try to do anything fancy. Focus on technique. And if you want to compete, focus on IQ. That's the main two. Focus on technique, the speed and power will come along with it.
Okay. And to do that, sort of, is there anything you'd look for in a gym to get you going, to feel like you were going to be developing yourself? You're not just signing up somewhere and
is it anything what you look for in like the coaching?
Yeah. Kind of what would you look for if you were looking back on what you've received?
Their attention to detail. So if they're some gyms, different gyms are different. Different gyms have different ways of testing their newcomers. Like a lot of boxing gyms, they spar hard, so they might throw you in the deep end. It's not always a bad thing. It's kind of just to test you, but that's just for them to see where you're at. And after that, their attention to detail, whether if you feel like you're just getting picked on, or if they're just constantly saying, "Oh no, you're not doing it right," don't take it personally. Just listen to your coach. I think that's a huge thing I get with people here. Is a lot of people, you realize they don't listen. You tell them to do something, they're not even looking at you.
Yeah.
You'd be like, okay, like do this with your feet. They're not even looking at your feet. They don't listen. Listen, attention to detail and technique when it comes to martial arts. When it comes to fitness, I'd say compound lifts. Compound lifts number one. Don't focus on trying to get bigger biceps or whatnot. Focus on trying to get a better squat, a better bench press. Deadlifts, I don't like them personally. I don't think the risk to reward ratio is worth it.
I'm on your side with that.
Especially for sports. But in general fitness, you don't need to be lifting like crazy heavy, like hundreds and hundreds of kilos. But if you get a decent base, I think a lot of people forget, have a decent structure. So yeah, squats will help with your.
What's your thoughts on like calisthenics and like bodyweight training basically as well?
I love it. I used to do it down in Brixton Street Gym.
Oh yeah.
I used to go there when I was young for years, and all we would do is pull-ups, push-ups, and like we would do weighted squats. Yeah. That was it. Pull-ups and push-ups, and those guys are some of the strongest guys I've ever met in my whole life. Their control of body weight's insane. Yeah. Like seeing some of the stuff that they can do is just, and you could be lifting 100 kilos, but these guys can like, I don't know if you know what a front lever is.
I've heard it.
So it's where you like hang off a bar.
Yeah.
And then your legs, you just bring them up, and you're kind of horizontal to the ground.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to do that,
it's crazy.
Your core, and it has to be insane. Yeah. And that's just body weight. So.
Yeah, focusing on
calisthenics, I think, is a great way to start. Yeah. Push-ups. Funny story. When I started my fitness journey, I couldn't do one push-up.
Neither.
So I was so overweight I couldn't do one push-up. So I had this program, and it was 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It was just push-ups because that's all I could kind of understand at the time. And you do one push-up like a negative.
Yeah.
And then rest a minute, 1 push up, 1 push up. That was it. On the Wednesday, you'd add 1 rep to 1 set. And on the Friday, you'd add another rep to another set. So eventually you do like 2, 2, 2.
Okay.
Then 2, 3, 3. You know.
Okay, yeah.
So it just literally adding 1 rep each time you did it. It took a while, but I went from doing 1 push up, I was able to do sets of like 80 to 90.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I've generally always had, like, training in the gym and stuff, I don't tend to do a lot of press-ups, and I promised myself on this, like, 5-month trip that I would be doing press-ups every day, and I have done maybe 20 the entire trip. I just don't do it, and same with stretching and mobility, like I said. I've fallen so far out of habit that it's terrible, but I like to think that absolute minimum, I would be shocked if I couldn't do 30 myself, and that's like a level I hold myself to. So if I dropped down and I did like 27, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I need to take that to another level. But on the flip side of that, I remember similarly to you, press-ups were the first thing I focused on. That and planks, actually.
Yeah.
And I can still remember my first proper press-up.
Yeah.
I ran upstairs to my mum and I went to show her. And then, because I had just done a first proper press-up, I tried to show her and I collapsed in front of her. And I just remember that being like, okay, I can do this now.
Yeah.
I've done one, and it's kind of like working into that. And same in COVID, when I had no gym equipment around or anything like that, I was like, do you know what? Now's probably the time to approach my embarrassing ability to do pull-ups, because I could do barely 2 or 3 pull-ups with like decent technique, and God knows what I could do now. But I managed to build up to doing good numbers in working sets, and it's dramatic how much those bodyweight movements do actually impact your life, often more than sitting on a row machine or something like that and trying to do
100%.
or a lat pull down machine or something like that. It just doesn't seem to convert in the same way that.
I mean, also, just quickly back to what you were saying with traveling and fitness.
Yeah.
I think one way you got to give yourself some sort
of course,
slack,
I don't bully myself about it.
Yeah, because as if you're going to go traveling and you're struggling to find gyms, I don't think it should be that huge of a, or try not to make it. I know it's harder said than done. Obviously, if you like gym and you like fitness, try not to make it the whole.
Yeah, of course.
What's it called?
You know, a whole focus.
A whole problem, because I think you're out here to kind of experience other things and learn other things. So yeah, I suppose.
Which effectively is kind of almost gym for the mind a little bit, because you just have to learn to rewire things. We've joked before about how you'll get off the plane in some of these Asian countries and you'll see traffic going the wrong way down the road to what it should be, and that's like your first hint of life is not the same out here. And so there's cultural shocks, there's social shocks, there's so many different things that your brain's got to process, that if you were trying to maintain any sort of normal habits that you had from home, you're gonna really, really struggle, and you won't really enjoy yourself. Like, I'm actually gonna find it really difficult to go back to ways of things in the UK. Just certain things seem so simple out here now that I've got my head around them, that I'm like, why on earth? I mean, if I wanted to book a ticket to go to a different country, I could probably walk into a tourist office, give them cash, and they'll write it on a piece of paper and it'll be done. In the UK, I need to book like 5 things on my phone, have copies of all of them, maybe print them out. It's such a pain in the arse. And I think that side of things is going to be difficult for me mentally going back. But at the same time, coming out here, obviously, that's a massive shock. And I'm not able to think about, I'll go to a gym down the road, because I have to go and find a way to plan the next week of my life in advance. And I think it's such a healthy thing to throw those spanners in the works and kind of refigure out what's important.
Yeah, exactly.
And now that you're out here and you're like living here, I think you've probably now settled into how things are out here as well. And I wonder if that's another reason that you probably don't see yourself going back immediately soon. Yeah.
I mean, the way of life is just. Yes, it's
Do you think your quality of life out here is a lot better?
It is. It really. Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. It's a lot better. It's the bills. Like, it's just the prices of things are different. Obviously, we're so lucky, because coming from, England, first of all, the pound's really strong.
Yeah.
So when you come out to a place like this, we're in a blessed position, to where, things don't seem, things aren't, they're not nearly as expensive. But I suppose also it depends on how you want to live.
Yeah.
It can be expensive out here, and the quality of life can be really expensive if you want to make it expensive, but it can also be very cheap.
Yeah.
So I'm not at the moment earning any savings. I'm not losing any. I'm breaking even with what I do out here, with how I am out here. But I have the beach.
Yeah.
An hour away. I have the mountains an hour away. It's sunny majority of the time. In Ubud it rains a lot, but even when it rains, it's still warm.
Yeah.
Going out to eat is cheaper. So yeah, it's not that the price is different, but what you get for the price is the difference.
Yeah.
And just be, I like, since I got out here, I like being out in nature a lot more, but mostly because it's sunny. So I don't mind going out when it's sunny.
Of course, yeah.
As you wouldn't. But back in England when it's like, pissing it down, windy.
5 days out of 7 most of the time.
No wonder you don't want to go outside.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't.
I guess that's the thing I haven't really discussed with anyone is like that's got to have a huge positive impact on everything. Like, it's a lot easier to go to the gym when it's not cold outside and it's you know where you're going. It's the same thing as the day before. It's all kind of a routine of everything around you, your environment being the same. Whereas in the UK, like you could wake up one morning, it's hailing, and you're supposed to go to the gym, but you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, and it plays a massive effect. Like getting out of as you said, getting out of bed and seeing it's raining. You just don't. You don't like you go and do it, but you don't feel like want to go out.
Yeah.
Like getting out the door is hard.
Yeah. And one thing that I've noticed as well is a lot of facilities out here based on the weather are like open air, which is also really nice as well. I'm not breathing in. Well, I prefer aircon in some of the gyms that I've been visiting because some of them are sweat boxes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm aware that aircon all the time is not actually that healthy for you. It's such dry air. So being able to train in a place like this, and quite like right now, it's not too hot. Like I'm sure I'll be sweating in a few minutes when we get going, but like this seems like a really nice place to sort of rock up and train. I can see why you've kind of gravitated here. Yeah,
I mean, you actually the longer you spend out here, the more you prefer non-aircon places.
Yeah.
First of all, it's easier to get warmer. Like that's a huge benefit. Like you get a lot less injuries from it. After a while, you get used to it. After a while, you get used to the kind of the dry heat and whatnot. And yeah, as you said, it's just a lot nicer to train in fresh air than it is to train in a box.
So with that, I guess anybody that's listening that may have already been planning a little trip to Bali, where can they find you guys to come train? Obviously, in Ubud, it's called Ubud Muay Thai, right?
Ubud Muay Thai, yeah. You got Ubud Muay Thai, which is where we're training. Down in Canggu, you got 2 good gyms. You got Bali MMA and Soma, who they're a lot bigger commercial gyms. They got some really good fighters out there. They got some good training, some solid. They got solid schedules. Like, I don't know how many classes they got a day. Maybe like 8 to 10 classes a day. They got jiu-jitsu. They got MMA, striking, weightlifting. So they're good gyms to train at. Yeah.
I was going to say, as well as sort of plug in this place and those places as well. You said that you've got some things going on. Some people we've had don't really want to share their social media, but if you've got anything you want to plug yourself, whether it is just your social media outs so people can come find you, or if it's anything else you've got going on in the works, then feel free because you're doing me a massive favour right now.
Not too much to plug. I mean, if there's a new bar getting built at the gym. So if you guys want to come
it looks pretty nice.
If you guys want to come to Ubud Muay Thai, we're gonna have the new bar here, which will be cool. But no, I don't really have too much to plug.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you very much for coming on. It's been really
pleasure.
interesting. I always find it really interesting that I tend to do these with people right now that I at least have some form of beginning relationship with, and learning so much more about them as a person is very, very interesting, as well as learning more about the sport that they do. So thank you very much for teaching me what you have so far about Muay Thai. Like I said, I'm going to go learn some more now.
Yeah.
But also open up a little bit about your experiences, and moving out here is quite difficult, and obviously going into childhood is always a difficult conversation, but I appreciate you opening up about that. For anyone listening, feel free to reach out if you've got questions or contributions to do with this. We are at mindsets_podcast on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of that rubbish. So please find us, share us, follow us, all of that good stuff. And hopefully we'll be back again soon with someone maybe elsewhere around the world. We're doing our best to find people while we're out here. But look after yourselves, and thank you very much for listening, and thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Pleasure.